Привет всем забугорным. I'm Russian, and I'll tell my tales from the Russian point of view because we also want to be heard. And with an introduction like that, you might be thinking, what the hell is she doing reviewing Beauty and the Beast? Well, for starters, I hope you don't mind if I talk about some non-Russia related things once in a while. But in this particular case, I do have a very good explanation. You see, Russia has its own Beauty and the Beast story, and while we're at it, I thought I might as well mention a few other books and movies that are not actually Russian, but still find its way into our heart and popular culture. But first, I think I should probably talk about the tale of Gabrielle Suzanne de Villeneuve, since it's the oldest written version of the story we have. But despite that, I just know that not many people manage to push through it. And how can I possibly know that? Well, this is not how the story ends, and it's not how the scene ends. So you know that the person writing the Wikipedia article just gave up. And believe me when I say, I get it. Now, we begin our tale in an undisclosed city which apparently was a big thing for the 18th century, as before that, the literature did not acknowledge that someone other than an aristocracy can be rich. I wish everything else about this book was this progressive. So, we got this rich merchant who is a certified best dad ever, except he probably bought this title, and the book will spend more time proving it to you than it will on the main romance. I wish I was exaggerating. So, the totally honest merchant has a whopping 12 children and a very dead wife, because who wouldn't be after being pregnant for a decade? All jokes aside, Belle's mother, and I'm talking about the new movie, got a lucky ticket with her whole plague death, because this poor lady, who doesn't even get a name, gave birth to an entire football team. Personally, I'd be out of the window the second they tell me about the baby number 2. I mean, pictures of hell are scary, but they can only do so much. And the thing is, most of these kids have no business being in the story. The only thing we know about 6 boys is that they are too young to marry. And what? When you meet people, you tell them something other than your marital status. The other half a dozen of merchant's descendants are girls, and the book wastes no time to tell us that they are vain little creatures that only love to part. Except for Beauty, of course. Beauty is the oldest Marisie known to mankind. Do I have any data to prove that? No, I don't. But this book will tell us so many lies about Beauty, so I call that even. Anyway, the merchant pissed off a leprechaun or something, because at the same time, his house got on fire, he lost his ships, and his partners in the country and outside all collectively decided to rob him. I hate this guy like no one else does, but even I think it's a bit of an overkill. The only thing that this poor family has left is this one house, but it's deep in the countryside, and because they couldn't afford any help, they had to work. The book immediately begins to bash the girls, but you know what? I'm gonna play the devil's advocate and say that they do not deserve the treatment. Not that we're told their age. I mean, why would you want to characterize people you actively chose to put in your book? But we do know that Beauty is only 14, so it's very much possible that at least some of these girls, if not all of them, are teenagers. But what do you honestly expect from the teenagers who've just lost their house, seen their friends turn back on them, and found out that they were only loved for their daddy's money? Oh, and on top of that, had to move to a place that's the definition of nowhere. Well, excuse me for not being happy about the changes. Also, why do we put the blame on the kids when it's the father who screwed up? Okay, I'm not the parent, but even I know that in order to get good children, you need to first become a good parent. You cannot just throw them into the wild and then take all credit if by some miracle they grew up a decent human being. I mean, unless it's Beauty. Beauty's doing all right. Well, she was down for a little while, but you know what? She figured it all out. Because of course she did. She's Beauty, she's perfect. And if you think that I'm exaggerating, well, believe me, I am not. In fact, She's not even named Beauty like Belle in Disney's movie. People around her just gave her that name because they didn't know that Mary Sue was an option. Anyway, the family struggled for about 2 years when their father received some great news. One of his ships returned to the port. It was the brothers who couldn't take their... Oh, who are kidding? The girls pretty much just pushed the father out of the house, but not before giving him a list of all the bougie stuff they wanted him to buy. And then they harassed Beauty because all she wanted was for her father to come home safe. Of course, what girl can possibly want for her father to not die in his travels? Unbelievable. And people say men can't write female characters. I mean it. These girls only exist to be a foil for Beauty. There is no personality to justify the existence of all 5 of them. 1, maybe 2 would be enough. Because scoring all the right superlatives in the family of 3 is a sitcom level believability. But out of 6, it's like life on other planets. Technically possible, but good luck proving that. Oh well. So the father encourages Beauty to ask for something else. And she admits that she wants the rose, because in that desert of a forest there aren't any. And so the merchant leaves, only to find out that he is still the world's unluckiest man. Because the ship did arrive, but other partners took all the stuff for themselves, since they thought that the guy just died somewhere. Well, ain't that wholesome? So because the man didn't have much money to spare, he had to return, despite the weather being horrible and making as little stops as possible. Because of that, he decided to go into the forest, despite it being quite late, and, obviously, got lost. The merchant was so tired and scared. All he could do was crawl into a hollow trunk of a tree and hope his death wouldn't be too painful. At this moment, even I felt sorry for him. But that wouldn't last long, I promise. When, by some miracle, the guy woke up, he noticed that all roads were buried under the snow, so he just wandered off into a random direction, which, somehow, brought him to a, spoiler alert, beast castle. But can I just point out how ridiculous that is? People make fun of Disney's Beauty and the Beast, but the villagers just didn't notice an entire castle next door. But at the very least, we can say that it's enchanted. In the book, however, it's not just a castle, it's an official summer residence of a royal family. How do you not know it's in your neighborhood? Okay. We all know how the story goes. The merchant enters the castle, and even though it seems empty and unlived, there's still food and fire prepared. So he naturally assumes it's for him, duh, and proceeds to rest for 24 hours, because the word day is just not fancy enough. Anyway, the man tries to thank the owner of the house, but then nobody responds, so he just assumes that he can take the castle for himself. I mean, I get that the castle appeared empty, but the food still appeared several times. So, for all he knows, the owner of the house might be extremely introverted, and yet his first thought is, cool, free real estate. You get why I don't like this guy, right? So, the best guest ever is about to head home and starts packing when he notices the flower smell, even though it's the middle of the winter. So he goes to investigate, and, sure enough, finds a blooming garden. There he finds loads and loads of rose bushes. So yeah, there is no specific rose. The guy just picks a random flower. And this is exactly when we meet our beast. And you know what? When I first read this part, I thought, seriously? The guy was about to unsubscribe you from your own real estate, but it's the rose that pissed you off? But the book actually explained this part, and it's pretty smart. But, spoilers. So the beast scared the living hell out of the merchant, but he begs him not to kill because he has children. And when the beast found out that 50% of his children are female, he gives the intruder a month to convince one of them to willingly come to his castle. And get this, he knows that the merchant will do that because, and I quote, he has an air of an honest man. Where did he get that? The guy announced out loud he's going to take his castle. The only air around him is gas. But anyway, the merchant gives the promise to a beast, fully understanding that he's done such a bad job parenting that none of his daughters can be bothered to save his life. But before he sets home, he has at least 2 more meals. Are we sure it's the beauty who has a Stockholm syndrome? Because I don't know many people who can listen to death threats and then go back home and have a lovely dinner together. I don't care it's late. Run, you goddamn idiot. Finally, when the beauty sleep is over, the man hops on a magical horse that leads him back home. His family is very happy to see him, but they see that he's awfully quiet. So, obviously, they want to know what happened. And the merchant is being weirdly passive-aggressive about that, claiming that the rose is the most expensive thing he has ever had, and it'll cost Beauty a lot. Oh, way to blame your 16-year-old daughter for your own mistakes. And, of course, the other girls started attacking Beauty, even though she hasn't said a word yet. Do you think that after being gaslighted like that, she's going to refuse to go to the beast? Of course not. Her entire family made her feel like she's the only one responsible for this mess. And, to add insult to the injury, her sisters seem to be happy that Beauty's going to die. You know, you can't spell family with toxic, but those girls sure try. At this point, I'm not really sure that having to live with an actual beast is that of a punishment for this girl. Oh, he certainly doesn't, because when the father-daughter duo enters the castle, he starts an entire performance. There are fireworks, and artillery shots, and an entire orchestra trying its best not to be useless in this mess. There are also a lot of lovers' notes, whatever it may be. And the beauty looks at it all and thinks, the beast sure is hungry. Villeneuve's been thinking that she wrote a female Voltaire, but she ended up with a Japanese protagonist, because diamonds are not as dense as this lady. So, the relatives meet the beast, and he asks if the beauty came on her own accord, and she agrees. So the girl's stuck here forever, but don't you worry. She gets to pick the clothes and jewels that her toxic sisters are to receive as a compensation for losing their dearest sibling. Isn't she just the luckiest? Oh, and they got so much money that it's pretty much impossible to move it without magic. And the dad promises that he'll keep his new riches a secret, even from his own family. But how much are you willing to bet that he has just lied? So the father leaves, and the beauty feels that she is about to become a dessert in more ways than I'm willing to imagine, because when she finally meets the beast unaccompanied, he asks her if she'd let him sleep with her. I think it's time to mention that a lot of people consider this book to be very not safe for work, but it isn't. I know it's hard to believe me considering what I've just said, but there are only about 3, maybe 3.5 times when the book tries to be risky. And that was time number 1. Yeah, she said no. At least the guy knows what's consent. That's more than what you get in most 18th century books. So, yay? And now that the introductory stage is over, let's talk about the stuff that matters. The relationship, the beauty and the beasting. The tale as old as time in its original form. The story that inspired generations did not actually exist. Yeah, you heard me. This book has 100+ pages, and the beauty spends more time talking to her parrots than she does with the beast. I mean, I too assume that the two characters from the title of the book need to interact with each other, but what do I know? I'm not a published author. You may ask, what the hell happens in this book then? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. Beauty wanders around the castle and finds a library. Cool. And a theatre. Impressive, but less cool. She also stumbles across a room with animals, like parrots and monkeys. And I know that some people find it problematic, so I have to point out that these are just monkeys. There is no deep meaning behind it, no allegories. The only deep about this book is my sleep after reading it, because the girl spends more time eating than she does interacting with the beast. And even then, he mostly just asks if she's doing okay, and if he can sleep with her, and yeah, that's the half point on the sexy-o-meter, because it's technically mature content, but only as much as every book that mentions the word bed is considered erotica. Basically, all you need to know is that since Beauty came into the castle, she's been dreaming about this very hard guy, and no, calm down. They only talk, and one of the things he's been telling her is that things are not what they seem. The man of her dreams is literally telling her he's the beast, without telling her he's the beast. She even finds his portrait in the castle, but the only explanation she can come up with is that Beast locked Mr. McDreamy somewhere in the facility. But the genius she is still couldn't put two and two together. The girl is a human teapot. She's meant to be hot, and her head is just as empty. And she dares to call Beast stupid. The greatest love story ever, ladies and gentlemen. The plot finally moves when Beauty decides that she's tired of having things being given to her on a silver platter. And don't get me wrong, Beauty is in a horrible situation and she is allowed to be frustrated. The problem is that the book's been hyping up her virtues so much, you'd think her birth put her mother back into that Madonna song. And yet, here she is, playing dress-ups with herself as a Barbie. In Russia we say, either put on your pants or take off your cross, because you can't be Dalai Lama and Kim Kardashian at the same time. Pick up the character trait, Madame Villeneuve. But anyway, Beauty decides that she wants to visit her family, and since she is effectively a prisoner in the castle, she needs to ask Beast for a permission to go. And this is where I lost all the sympathy for the man, because so far he was really nice. I'd say that he was a better person than Disney's Beast. Any of them, honestly. He didn't have any random outbursts. He wasn't rude to her. Even Beauty admitted that he was a nice creature, I suppose. I was this close to calling him my favourite character. But then he had to ruin it all by throwing a hissy fit about Beauty leaving. And then he just started gaslighting her. Worst of all, he didn't do that only as a monster, but when Beauty fell asleep and met his human form, he started telling her that her departure will cause his death. Boys, girls, if someone ever tells you something like that, pack up your stuff and leave. This is not a red flag. It's a goddamn red skyscraper. Cosmonauts concede from space. Seriously, I hated him so much I was about to throw away the book and just forget it ever existed. The only reason I didn't is because I was halfway through. I couldn't let all those dead brain cells go to waste. So I kept reading. And you know what? After reading B's backstory, I have to say, I get it. He's still a major ass, and you should never, ever date someone like that. But that being said, the guy never had a chance to become a decent human being. Just wait, you'll see. Next morning, Beauty gets teleported to her father's house by opening the castle's door and walking into the room, and no one is surprised by that. I suppose the fact that she's still alive is way more surprising to them, except for her sisters. All they are capable of feeling in the presence of Beauty is jealousy. Sisterly love does not exist in this universe. Also, did you bid against me when I said that Beauty's father will not keep his promise to lay low and not show off the beast's money? Well, cash up if you did, because the guy is a millionaire. And I just love how the idea of making his family's life less horrible involves getting servants. I don't know about you, but if I saw someone going from growing their own food to hiring an entire staff of people, I'd probably suspect them of having some extra cash. But if Beauty is considered to be a smart being in this universe, maybe others are just really dumb. Oh, and it really creeps me out that her father proposed that they should live together, alone, because who needs Beauty and the Beast when you can have Beauty and the dad? No, just no. But then our girl tells her dad about her luxurious life in the Beast castle, and the dad is like, you know what, scratch the earlier thought, you should probably marry the Beast. Just a moment ago, you were completely sure that your daughter was brutally murdered by the ugly demon, and now you want her to marry him because he's rich? How are you still a good guy in this story? But that's not even the worst part. No, the worst part is when Beauty says that the Beast wants to sleep with her. He tells his daughter to man up and do it. Well, if you like him so much, why don't you marry him? But if that didn't destroy the story, how about a page-long rant on how Beauty found the Beast ugly and stupid? Isn't that what you want to read when you pick up one of the greatest romances of all time? But don't you worry, there are dozens of men who are willing to take the role of a prince in this story, because don't you forget, Beauty is a big bowl of merry soup, and it takes only one glance to fall in love with her. And you know what? The book is trying its best to make me hate Beauty's sisters, and I admit, to a point it succeeds, but I definitely care for them way more than I do for Beauty. They have already been abandoned once, when their father lost all his money, and now, when they finally have a new chance, Beauty shows up and literally everyone forgets they exist. There wasn't even a single gigolo who thought, you know what, these girls look desperate, I'm gonna marry one of them. No, the Mary Sue powers are so strong that they create its own gravitational pull that attracts every man in general vicinity. At that point, I wouldn't be surprised if they transcended the rules of logic and started attracting non-humans as well. Are her parents in love with her? Probably. Do chairs have dirty thoughts about her? Oh, I'm sure they do. And don't ever get me started in the castle every time she enters and leaves the room. Oh, but these mortals are not good enough for our Beauty. How can anyone possibly compare to her imaginary crush? But the dream snatcher sadly wasn't showing up in her father's house. It's almost as if he might be a figment of her imagination, and now that she's back in her safe environment, she doesn't need this safety mechanism anymore. But what do I know? I've only been following every single step she's ever taken. Anyway, despite the fact that Beauty is an extrovert in literally every single situation, she suddenly transforms into an introvert whenever she tries to tell her family she wants to go back. But don't you worry. Beast has a magical power of gaslighting, and it too can penetrate the fabric of reality. So one day, Beauty sees a very nice dream of Beast having a fate almost as good as his personality. And like the ideal woman from every book that no housewife will ever admit she enjoys, Beauty rushes to save the guy. Instead of letting him die a horrible death he deserves, taking his treasures and retiring at the ripe old age of 16. Or maybe that was the plan, because upon returning to the castle, she did literally everything except look for the actual person she was concerned about. I am not kidding. She went to the opera, she went to a theatre, she went for a walk. She did everything she could to cheer her up, while stubbornly avoiding doing one thing and one thing only that she needed to do. At this point, the book even tries to convince me that Beauty feels something other than disgust towards the Beast. But you know what? At this point, I don't care. The book lost me at mental abuse and passionate hate speeches. I don't care if Beauty feels something other than disgust towards the Beast. I don't care if the Beast dies. I want it to be over, but there is still half a book left. The time for the Beast visit comes, but he doesn't. And the girl finally decides that it is time to act. Oh, honey, you think? You sure you don't want to have some tea before that? The cake's not gonna eat itself. So she finds the Beast in a cave in a nearby forest, and according to Wikipedia, at this moment, Beauty realizes that she loves the corpse before her, and it suddenly transforms into a human. But here's a kicker. This never happens. She tries to resurrect the Beast by splashing some water on his face. I'm sure it does wonders for the dying person. But it was actually monkeys that brought actual medicine that helped the Beast. At this point, I actually wish the animals were real people. In that case, Beast could get himself a black princess. Beauty would end up with, hot Brazilian dude. And I will not have to call the protective services. But I wish. At least we can all be happy that this time Beauty was not scolded for missing her family. Oh, what a wholesome guy. But if you think this is the moment when she realizes she has feelings for Beast, then sorry. She stopped thinking that he's an idiot, but love? She is still in love with her night-night, which is just... Of course, we, as book readers, can guess that he's probably the Beast, his portrait in the castle and all. But as far as Beauty is concerned, Beast Cook was a bit too experimental with the spices, and she's building her entire life around a bad case of indigestion. And I want you to understand, we are about to reach the end of the main story, and our protagonist is not only in love with another man, but she thinks that the man on the cover is actually disgusting. This is a storytelling fail. You can actually give a How to Ruin Your Entire Book classes with Villeneuve's tale as a sole example. There is so little chemistry between the main characters, Beauty has to be pushed to the right direction. Her Dreamity Dream Boy literally spelled to her that the only way for Beauty to be happy is to marry the Beast. Then she saw another dream of Beast dying, and as the worst cherry on top, and in the history of never, told her not to follow her heart and listen to her brains. Only then she hesitantly tells the Beast that she's ready to sleep with him. Oh goody, the second fully sexy moment. Yeah, haven't heard that in a while. But don't be dirty like our dear old Beauty here. By sleeping, the Beast actually meant the act of sleeping, because he carelessly snored away. And yeah, he snores, because you see, he has a trunk for a nose. That's the only description of a monstrous appearance we get. And apparently, snoring is the quality of ugly people, because when he turns to the prince, he stops doing that. I don't know what to think about it. Anyway, the curse is broken and the Beauty gets her bow. But if you think that's the end, then oh boy, prepare yourself, because you're about to meet the worst character this book has ever seen. Yeah, if you think that all those lovely characters we've seen before are bad, then let me tell you, they can't even compare. The Queen Majesty herself, mother of a prince, takes the cake, and then she eats it in front of you in the most disgusting way, and then demands a refund because she didn't like it. That's the kind of character she is. The woman is transported into the castle by the weird fairy from the Beauty's dream, and she's so happy to find out that there was a girl who managed to fall in love, and I'm using this word in the loosest way possible, with her cursed son. So she immediately wants to wed the two lovebirds, until she finds out that Beauty is not a royalty. Are you kidding me? The guy is in this mess solely because of you. Let him enjoy his life. But no. She tells Beauty to choose literally any other man in the kingdom. Well, now I see who passed the generosity genes to the Beast, and that she will be as close to the throne as possible. Lady, we as readers know that Beauty could put Gandhi to shame, but you don't. For all you know, these two will make a bunch of illegitimate babies who won't be as virtuous in their claims to the throne. So the prince begs his mother to reconsider, even going as far as to ask the fairy to turn him back into the Beast. But I don't think Beauty will appreciate that. This girl does not have a bestiality kink. But this woman is a cold-hearted witch. She even ignores the fairy, even though, and I can't stress that enough, she scared her to death. This woman is absolutely sure that a magical, all-powerful creature is about to unleash a literal hell on her, and she still refuses to give up her pride. There is time and place to be stubborn, but this is not it. But you want to know the best part? A little golden cherry on top of this grand-sized catastrophe. This woman comes from a place where royalty is allowed to marry commoners. The woman that spends 5, and I repeat that, 5 pages telling Beauty that she's unworthy of her son because she's not a proper royalty, herself has people of lower class in her family. What a bigot! The fairy's finally done with her crap and tells her that Beauty is her niece, and that somehow fixes the problem. I mean, when you write a book You effectively create your own world where you are pretty much a god, capable of doing anything. Now, tell me, who in his right mind, when presented with a choice to make a main couple siblings or not, would choose an incest route? Clearly I don't understand something in this world. But wait, there's more. There is always more. Beauty is also the niece of a fairy. You see, her father is the king of Happy Island, Queen's brother, and her mother is a full-blown fairy. So, our protagonist here is half princess, half fairy. That's a Halloween costume, not a lineage. Now that the telenovela part of our story is over, I can finally explain the backstories. Or I would have if I wasn't editing, recording, re-editing and re-recording for 4 days straight. My brain really needs some rest, so I decided to split the video in two. So if you want to find out, when does the story take place? Why does the beast deserve a redemption? And, most importantly, what happened to the people in the castle? Stick around, because I do have answers, and I have a few other videos about Beauty and the Beast coming up soon. So subscribe, but for now, that's it. Thanks for listening. Пока-пока.